Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Information Warfare Pavilion and our speaker series. This afternoon, we're delighted to have with us a representative from my command back in Washington, OPNAV N2N6, Rear Admiral Tracy Hines, who's the Cybersecurity Division Director, working within the Office of the Chief of Naval Operations. Admiral Hines is from Columbus, but I don't hold that against her as a Michigan guy. She was commissioned through the Limited Duty Officer Program and has a degree from American Intercontinental University in Business Management. She laterally transferred to the Information Warfare community in 2007. She's also got a master's degree in Information Technology Cyber Forensics from Trident University. She's got too many operational commands and command tours for me to mention here without taking up too much of your time. Please read her bio. It is extremely interesting. But her operational tours did include a time in Baghdad, which was a great experience for her. Most recently, besides having command and all of that, she was the executive assistant to the Chief of Naval Operations. So she's got a wide range of experience, and we're delighted that she's here to join us this afternoon. Admiral Hines, the floor is yours.
I tried to get some theme music, but it wasn't working for her. And I also heard I was competing with China. Newsflash, no, I think there's like a China brief going on in another pavilion. So I know it'll end, and can you hear me okay? And soon people will start trickling in. Joe, thank you so much. I really appreciate the introduction. I'm glad he didn't read through all of the commands. You would be saying, well, how long has she been in? I mean, so don't ask those questions. I'm a little vain about that. So I'm not going to talk about time. Last time I spoke, I did talk about time. But this time, I'm going to talk about all the greatness that we are doing, some of the challenges, and just kind of give you an overview of my portfolio. So glad to see you all. I see some awesome familiar faces out there, so I feel right at home, and I'm just happy to be in San Diego. In fact, I spent a lot of my career in San Diego, and then when you see that on my bio, from the Spec War, EOD, to the Big Deck, to the amphibs, to acquisition. I've kind of done a little bit of everything. So that's why it's really exciting to be here with industry. And thank you all for taking your time. Okay, I know I got the time slot right now. And sometimes that's known as the 3 p.m. slump, right? You know the phrase. It's that point in the day where, you could take a cat nap or, get a cup of coffee or something. But I'm going to energize you a little bit because there's some goodness here. And I tell you, think of this as the pre-happy hour or the time before happy hour. So you should start getting happy about that. I actually saw them setting up some goodness. So I look forward to this. Okay. So last week, and I'm going to try to stand still. I do tend to move around a little bit. Last week, I had the awesome opportunity to be with the DoD CIO team. And we did a really good industry tour. We went to the Silicon Valley area and visited all of the goodness there. I see a lot of the vendors here. But I tell you what was great about it is that really got to see some of the eye-watering technological capabilities. And it's like, wow. There is a lot of things out there. There's a lot going on. So when you sit from my perch, I get really, really excited because I've been that warfighter out there too, going, hey, I want and I need. So it was really good for us to engage, and Mr. Sherman set the trip up. And for a lot of the CIOs from all the different services were represented. And we were able to synergize as well. So that was just an awesome opportunity. And now for me to be here and see, again, some of the capabilities, just kind of helps in the narrative so we can really get the requirements right, so we can ensure the warfighter has what they need to be ready. Okay. So I'm before you today, as I said, to discuss my portfolio, which I think most of you are familiar with, but it can be a little tricky to comprehend, but I'll do my best. So if you take a look at the screen, I am the Director of Enterprise Networks and Cybersecurity. That's the one, of course, aligned under Vice Admiral Trussler, aligned under the CNO as OPNAV N2N6. I am also the Deputy CNO for, I'm also the Requirements Officer and Resource Sponsor for 8 different programs overseeing about a $4.9 billion Navy budget. So I'm assigned as the Navy's CIO, the Navy's CISO, CTO, CDIO, CDO, and CWO. So hopefully you know what all those things mean. Digital officer, data information systems officer, all those different hats. And I got one little star. So, but I tell you, I have a bunch of superstars in my organization that really help us, make some really good decisions and make sure we accomplish the mission. So, before I get into the other things that I do, I want to take a moment to discuss something near and dear to our hearts, cybersecurity. Because cybersecurity is everywhere, right? And it really is fundamental to national security. And the Navy's presence in cyberspace is equally as important as our presence on the seas when it comes to maintaining maritime dominance. I know I don't have to tell this group that, but it was, in any conversation I'm in, there's usually a cybersecurity aspect to it now in the way that we move and just the way that we operate in this technologically savvy world. So sometimes those operations, are the main effort. As such, we must ensure, like I said, our systems are secure, our infrastructure and weapon systems are survivable, and our cyber operators can strike in cyberspace at a moment's notice. So we recognize that the threat is real. And we must be ready to fight, like I said, today, tonight, and tomorrow, which is why it is so important to ensure we have robust, secure, and reliable networks. So I have a signature phrase, and I know a lot of you oldies but goodies know this phrase. No comms, no bombs. And I can't just drop the mic right there, but I won't. In order for us to compete really in today's contested cyberspace, we must shift from a compliance-based approach to a readiness approach. Cyber readiness is truly mission readiness, and our strategic competitors leverage the cyber domain and they do this to erode our military, technological, and economic advantages. This is why cybersecurity cannot be an afterthought, and why we work so hard to support the Navy and and provide the capabilities that the Navy needs in the future. And I thought, the way that today was kicked off in the keynote. Hey, history happened. There's a lot that went on, but we got to be ready for that future fight. We got to be forward-leaning and making sure that we are being prepared, for that fight. And as we know, that fight has already started in a non-kinetic manner. So that's why some of the things that I'm going to talk about are really important, and I really need industry's help to lean forward. So at the Echelon 1 level, of course, I mentioned that we validate requirements, set priorities, and of course, direct overall planning and programming for cybersecurity capabilities and system and enterprise networks. So my mission set, and I just took my team off site, and we actually rewrote the N2N6D mission. So I'm going to read it to you. It says to define and prioritize requirements and resources to provide the warfighter secure, resilient, and survivable enterprise information warfare capabilities. So we have several cybersecurity initiatives underway, and I know you've probably, I think Barry might be out there somewhere. I think everybody knows how the progress that we've made on the flank speed fielding, our cyber ready efforts. In fact, Mr. Weiss and his team were actually going out on a little road show to just talk about where we are with cyber ready. And I'll talk about that again in a few minutes. Increasing cyber resiliency, infrastructure modernization, crypto modernization, and transmitting from that old TDM to IP, which I'll also talk about a little more. That's just been a challenge for us. So, done a lot of great things in support of our operational improvements, enhanced communications, and resource optimizations. Like I mentioned, flank speed already with the B1 boundary upgrades. I mean, that was huge. We know that we still have a lot of other things that we need to accomplish, but that was kind of setting the tone for it. Migration of iNavy sites, the publication of our cyberspace training white paper, and of course the revision of our defense cyber workforce framework. So a lot of goodness, but a lot more to do. So when I took this job, I think Joe told you, I was a CNLZA before in this job. And he goes, I said, so what should I do, coming in as the new Director of Enterprise Networks and Cybersecurity? He said, pick 3 things and just move the needle. I'm like, oh my gosh. And then I get into the job and it's like, oh, there's like 300 things. So I don't know, it's like, pushing uphill. But, it just made me think about it. What are going to be those 3 things that I'm going to focus on? So I'm going to share them with you. So predictive capabilities, enterprise solutions, and then cybersecurity. So you probably knew that already. But let me dive into them a little deeper. So predictive capabilities, predictive analytics, right? It means it's that left of boom. It's those type of indication and warnings, those analytical capabilities that actually tell us, hey, what are those precursor behaviors and anomalies that are happening before something happens? Right? We always put the fire out, we bolt down, we patch, we do all this, but who's sniffing it out? Who's like to the left? What are those capabilities that we need to be investing in? And I know from a network monitoring perspective, we have made some headway, but I really am interested in truly getting left of boom. Because, like I said, that's the future fight. I want to be way left of it. Like I said, that's where I need the industry's help. The second needle mover for me is ensuring we invest in enterprise solutions, which encompass data implementation, network modernization, right? Heard those words before. So let's talk about data implementation. So, in support of DoD's data strategy, the Navy is working towards the vision of being a data-centric organization that uses data at speed and scale for operational advantage and increased efficiency in all aspects of our business and mission operations. So this vision will drive toward a comprehensive IT ecosystem where data is treated as a strategic asset and posture of a visible, accessible, understandable, linked, trustworthy, interoperable, secure, and audible. I think people have heard of that, right? Hey, I know you have. Up and down the echelon. So this will enable both effective execution, decision-making, operational efficiency on the deck plate where it matters. So working with DoD, stakeholders, and Don, we're leading a series of key data implementation initiatives that are focusing on data cataloging, data models, and standards, availability of visualization and analytic tools, and a lot of use cases also to drive analytics and ultimately system consolidation and improvements in data quality. So more to go. So as far as network modernization, we know we got a lot of work to do. The Navy developed its networks and IT capabilities to support various and unique mission requirements at a time when we didn't appreciate the persistent nature of the threat. So the approach to solving IT problems individually rather than looking at them holistically has prevented us, in some instances, kind of delayed the necessary modernization best practices from being implemented to improve cybersecurity, end user experience, and IT efficiencies. So additionally, our current infrastructure is old. I'll say that word, it's aging. We must exhaust efforts to replace obsolescence. And I know I'm not telling you anything that you don't know, but this has just been one of those problems that we've just been admiring over and over again. It's old. It's, it needs to go. Like I mentioned up front about that time division multiplex that was around before I joined the Navy. So I know it's up there. So in order to keep pace with technology, the advancements, we must be able to address IT issues from an enterprise level, right? An enterprise level. I was just having a conversation, I think with Admiral Simpson. A lot of times we got to create our own this and our own that, and I'm thinking, we need to kind of single up on some efforts. We got to single up and have an enterprise approach. And this is where, because we know we're resource challenged, we can commit investments in areas such as upgrading IP connections to sites to replace the obsolescence, transition to the cloud, and crypto modernization and computer network defense, so that we can enable a secure voice and data communications across the Navy enterprise. So I know that the C&D provides cybersecurity capabilities at tactical shore nodes, as well as analytic tools and situational awareness. These capabilities, Fleet Cyber Command and other fleet users are helping to make sure that we move the needle on that. So my third needle mover, cybersecurity. All right. This is going to take a multifaceted approach because we need to be able to have a continuous monitoring capability development. So this development has been one of my key efforts to ensure the Navy is in a state of continuous awareness of our cybersecurity posture. Not just those snapshots in time or those time late, but continuous, right? The capability is out there for us to be able to do that. And this is imperative that we have the key operational decision makers have access to, like I said, that real-time insight and emerging vulnerabilities and the cybersecurity with them so that they can be left a boom. So we also have the responsibility to shape the culture of cybersecurity and manage the Navy's risk management construct. So we're revising the Navy's implementation of the risk management framework from the current cyber culture of compliance to a holistic approach that measures cybersecurity with a risk and readiness mindset. A risk and readiness mindset. So the autonomous testing, continuous monitoring, automation, streamlining of the authorization process will also ensure that we have an increased visibility into the everyday cyber posture and enable the fleet as a whole to better control and protect their own systems and segments of the cyber battle space. Sounds real simple, and it sounds like a no-brainer. It's like, why haven't we done it yet? I'll tell you, one company that we visited last week in LA has been known for going fast, just moving out, just making things happen. Yeah, it starts with an S and it ends with an X, making things happen. I'm like, you know what? There's a lot to be learned from how they're doing some business. So, we need to kind of take notice. And it was kind of eye-opening because it was like, oh, you can't do that. You got to have that ATO. You got to have the whatever. So we're kind of our own enemy in that sense. So definitely going to, make some changes in some of those antiquated processes and make it, like I said, that maybe a continuous approach. So last but certainly not least, part of driving cybersecurity means acquiring and retaining the manpower to execute the mission. The cyber workforce is made up of people who build, secure, operate, defend, and protect the cyberspace. So we need and the resources. They conduct intelligence-related activities to enable future operations and to the power to project in and through cyberspace. So the Department of Defense Cyberspace Workforce Qualification and Management Program Manual that will be released any day now. This is going to implement that policy and assign the responsibility and the qualification standards so that we can have a full and ready cyber force. Because without the workforce, It kind of doesn't make sense. And as I was visiting a lot of these different companies, AI was a big topic of conversation, as you can imagine. And question was asked, well, is this going to replace the workforce? Should we be threatened by this? I think absolutely not. I think we're going to retool and reshape the workforce. I think it's going to enhance what we do. We're going to need to have, I visited the 5G smart warehouse yesterday, which was pretty awesome to see some of those technologies. We just got to have a smart workforce. And I think that's given us some opportunity to increase, technology expertise. And I think there we will be able to retain individuals as well and truly have that AI workforce, if you will. So yeah, I have a whole different view, I think, of AI. I also attended the course, the AI for National Security Leaders. And we actually talked about, hey, there's some examples of where AI is not working. There's some examples where we're not as mature as we think we are. And they use some autonomous cars and some other examples. I think you guys have seen the one where the Marines beat the robot because they were hiding under a box, because the AI is only as smart as you give it. So it wasn't prepared for that scenario. So they put the box and then they moved a little bit. The AI was like, oh, I was so confused. And then one had a tree and was moving with it. So it's those types of things. You're gonna need that human in the loop. So we need to make sure that our workforce is up and ready for that challenge. So I think we should be excited about it and be able to embrace it. But we really need to make sure, like I said, we have that workforce that is developed to be able to handle that. So talked about the workforce, the roles that we will need. Hey, those are my needle movers. And I tell you, we are making some progress. A weighty one, right? But like I said, just move the needle. And when you set things up foundationally right, that next person can come along and then just move the needle a little more. So working with NAV I4, Fleet Cyber Command, my DOD, the other services, taking that collective approach so that we can synergize. And again, that was some of the goodness in the a tour that I went on, because we all got to see it, through our different lens. And then we got to talk about it and say, wait a minute, what are we doing? Like I said, this is an opportunity to single up on some efforts, because there's only so many resources and we all want. But hey, that warfighter out there has got to be ready for that fight. Like, yeah, Admiral Paparo said, got to be ready for that fight tonight. America does not compete, deter, or fight alone. So I know we have the Department of the Navy. The partnerships are also important internally across the U.S. government and among our global networks of naval allies and partners. Some of you may remember me as the Centrix APM. Way back in the days, and that's the coalition network, and I was pretty proud of that. But thinking about those different enclaves and how we used to do things, we're gonna need our partners in this fight. So we need to figure out a better way to share information rapidly at different classification levels. That's a requirement. So we are finding, new ways among our global network of naval allies and partners to make that happen, so that we can provide an unmatched and irreplaceable advantage. We are also finding new ways to link the DIB, the Defense Industrial Bases, security supply chains, and co-produce technologies to produce and boost collective military advantage. So we will not go it alone. And I invite you to be part of this voyage together. Like I say often, I've been in a lot of different conferences and a lot of different panels, and it just seems like we keep talking about the same old things, right? I want to be a part of the solution. I want to move the needle. And that's where, again, I need your help to help me be a part of the solution. So, gonna leave you with this one thought, and then we're gonna have some questions, because I can go on and on and on about it, but we got work to do. We got to get busy. Like I said, I've been around for a while. I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. So yesterday when I spoke, I talked about a ship called the USS Dixon. AS-37. I talked about what kind of capabilities we had way back in the 80s. What? Where we had a high frequency full period termination. We were using an R1051 to dial up frequencies and hey, we were bad to the bone. You know what? Because we could talk. We could send and receive from the ship. Those AS-2815 egg beater antennas, SSR1, could receive the broadcast. We were communicating. Then I fast forwarded a little bit and I said, okay, I was on the Cleveland, Amphib, the mighty Cleveland, another one that's DCOM, LPD-7, but capabilities, having Inmarsat, being able to have a little bit of bandwidth to do something, to get a little bit of email, awesome, awesome, awesome. But before that, I was on the Connie and Whiskey 3, the things that we used to do, I was like, whoa, Whiskey 6, when those things started, they were game changers. And then I got on board the mighty Blue Ridge. And I thought, oh my goodness, I'm doing it now. And this was in 2017. So we had a big pipe, and we had a lot of stuff. We had canes. We got canes installed. We had some challenges, but we worked through it. So I say this, and the CNO has already talked about that. The shipbuilding plan and where we're going, and the different capabilities that are going to be available. So as we look forward and get ready for that fight tomorrow, that's the mindset. We are not on the USS Dixon anymore. Those sailors are out there with these warships doing some greatness to protect our country. So that's the mindset that we need to be in. So from predictive capabilities, enterprise solutions, cybersecurity, we need to ensure we have resilient, reliable communications so that we can deliver lethality today, tonight, and tomorrow. I want comms and bombs. Thank you so much for allowing me to address you today. What are your questions?
Thank you. Admiral, thank you. Mike Massa from Carnegie Mellon's SCI. We're an FFRDC, so we like to do a lot of research and we like to find the problems that are the priority at the moment. Is there a publicly available or some level of classification, an S&T want list from N2N6D?
Say that again. Is there a
science and technology want list? Things I wish I could have, but
Yes.
no one seems to have them.
Yes, absolutely there is. So please make contact. Yeah, like you said, at different classification levels. I always have my happy list, ready to move out on, because if we get funding for things, that's part of what we do, rack and stack requirements. But there's some other, hey, if we had this, we would be able to do that. Type of list out there as well that we at OPNAV definitely discuss. So no, great question. Thank you. He is. He's in the back. Raise your hand. There he is. He's a guy. He's a Lincoln. Thanks. Action Jackson is what I call him. He didn't like that name, but his name is Jackson Payne. But he makes it happen. All right. What else? Don't be scared. I know you got a question. All right. Here we go.
Good afternoon, Admiral.
Good
Commander
afternoon.
Mason.
Good to see you.
Likewise, ma'am. At the top of your speech, you mentioned no comms, no bombs. Your career is layered with examples of comms denied environments, whether they be man-made or natural environmental. So what are we doing as a individual Navy? What are we doing with industry as well as our partner nations to ensure that we have comms in a comms denied environment as induced by our adversaries?
No, great question. Let me tell you, that's like been my narrative. Every time I see something great, working when you're not moving anywhere and you got full connectivity, I said, but what about in those degraded, that intermittent, and limited environment, that digital environment. Like, how are we going to crack that nut? So we are actually, there's been a lot of proof of concepts and some pilots that are going on afloat now. I think you probably know about some of them, but there's a lot of tests that we're doing right now because until we solve that, hey, what's going to happen, that offline, being able to, when it goes offline, how can we really move the warfighters out there to the cloud and take advantage of some of the things? So we're doing some tests now. That capability does exist. And that's been my, the thing that I've been, speaking loud and clear on. So yeah, we're definitely making some efforts, and a lot of things can't really go into specifics on, but no, thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, the way we operate in the Navy, we don't just stand still. And oh, by the way, we're under, we're on, we're up here, we're up there, we're all, so, we got a very dynamic manner in which we operate. So that's, why we need to make sure these capabilities. Cloud is exciting. I want it. Zero trust, all day long, especially, for the war fighters. That's what they need. But we got to figure out that piece too, and therein lies the challenge. Thanks.
Hi there, I'm Carrie. I'm a reporter with Bloomberg Government. At an earlier panel this morning, there was some discussion about making sure that people can use all this new information warfare technology, like sailors on the ship, things like that, as part of your plan of getting the workforce ready. Like,
absolutely.
How does training fall in there?
No, that is it. That's when I mentioned that cyber-ready workforce and the way we qualify and the train, and of course with NAV I4, that is exactly what we're thinking. Because you're right, we're going to retool the workforce. We're going to have smart workforce, and I think it's going to be a lot of goodness in it for all of us. So people are going to, hey, I'm learning, I'm growing. I mean, just me being out in the industry and hearing about a lot of these capabilities. I'm like, oh my goodness, you get that to a sailor and they'll just run mad with it. So it is a lot of good opportunities. We just need to, like I said, reshape that whole cyber workforce and make sure they're all qualified. And I think we will probably see an impact in our retention. A lot of the feedback that I've gotten from a lot of sailors is, well, I really want to be in IT, but sometimes, the skill set atrophies when some of them didn't have, I don't have the privileges to do this, and I can map a printer, and that's about it. I know we're moving forward in a lot of that, but, then it was like, hey, they see, a contractor, one of their friends that was an E5, and now working, you're making, making a lot of good money, and it's hard. So I think now, if we just allow to say, hey, here's what you're going to learn, it'll make us, I feel that purpose, and I think we will be able to hopefully do better in retention too.
Well, thanks.
Thanks.
Yeah, Paul Roswell from Systems Planning and Analysis. I'm not sure it's within your portfolio, Admiral, but would you talk a little bit about comms as a service, sort of any information, any network, any transceiver kind of concept, and where we're going with that?
Yes, and I don't know if Admiral Small talked about it at all, but yeah, it is. It's just a different way in which in how we're going to do business. When you have things that you can, hey, a different way of shopping, like you said, comms as a service, platform as a service, instead of having to, pick that one thing. No, it's all going to be, something that we can all, take advantage from, especially from the OA piece as well. So there's a lot of goodness. I don't want to get into too many specifics, but yeah, and that's another thing that's just going to reshape and game change, we got to do this in a very smart manner. And I know some things that we're looking at, and I don't know if Admiral Breyer Joyner is here, but JADC2, I'm sure that's been talked about. I guess I can share this. When I went to the AI course, they said, okay, it's 2025 and JADC2 didn't work. Can you tell us why? That was like our capstone project. And I was like, what? But but it made us all think, yeah, we got a lot of these things out there, but we got to make sure the right people are talking, the right interoperability, truly does exist, so that we can really get there. That's why, being here, and like I said, where I was last week, it's so exciting, right? Because there's so much stuff out there. But but don't want to bog it down with of course policy and all those other things. However, we need a little structure. We need to be able to make sure we're all on the same page and we know what we're doing. So thank you for that.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Max
Hey,
Smallwood.
I know you.
Yeah, good to see you again and hear you
well.
again. I'm from PMW 790. I'm the Platform Tactical Services PAPM. And 790 is engaged, and we are a platform provider and a cloud broker for moving the tactical edge and bringing the cloud out to that tactical edge. And we've talked to some vendors here, and there's some great ideas and some great solutions, but we have a lot of application owners, a lot of applications that are kind of dragging their feet as far as moving to that containerized environment. And they say, well, I'm not funded to, I can't afford to.
Yeah.
And I say, you can't afford not to.
That's right.
But so I'm just wondering at your level of command, and are you guys looking at a forcing function to get those? I know there are certain legacy applications that there's just no, the juice isn't worth the squeeze, but there's a lot of applications out there that really could benefit from that, and from our tactical networks being in the cloud, the shore portion, the expeditionary portion, as well as the Canes application. So do you have any forcing function to get those application owners and providers to move?
Yes. So, we've talked about this a lot. I mean, and the conversation kind of morphs sometimes because, an application, right? Well, we know there's better ways to do things. And I like I said last week, I saw, a lot of the way, industry, it's like, well, this is already available, and here's the capability. So I've made the narrative a little real. Here's why we need this. Here's why we need to do this. And I've done it. I started the conversations from a warfighter aspect. Actually, it's like, hey, this is why we need to have this. So we need to rack and stack. It is challenging sometimes because everybody's got that special thing. I remember when Compose came out, and I said this yesterday, and you remember I was the APM for that. Oh, good. Now we got a set of applications where we're all, good. How do we really solve that problem today, though? I mean, is there a recommendation from your perch on what we should be focused on? Okay. Yeah, I'm meeting with them tomorrow. So see how I did that? Turned it right back on here. Fix it. No. We're going to be a part of that solution. That's just going to be my narrative. I mean, because it is so easy. This is bad. This is bad. I'm over everything being bad. Okay, the fingers are pointing this way too. So I want to do something to make sure I am moving that needle. And you too. If you're not being a needle mover or being a part of the solution, shame, shame, shame. That's why we're all here, hopefully. And and I know there's a lot of competition, but I tell you, that fight tomorrow is real. That other discussion that they're having and that China brief, and everybody continues to talk about this. And then when little things start to happen where you're knocking on the door and we're wondering, hey, what's going on? Hey, we need to be left of that boom. We need to be left of that boom. All right.
Admiral.
Oh, there you are.
The Dixon and the Cleveland are both ships that I'm familiar with, so you can tell from my gray hair I've been around.
What?
My name's Tom Delray. I work at Lumen. You mentioned cloud, Joint Warfighting Cloud Capability, JWCC. Can
Yes.
you tell me what the Navy's going to do on their part, since it's consolidated across all joint units? What would you say about JWCC, please?
Well, that's a good, question as well. And I, definitely am not going to go into specifics, but we are in the conversation to make sure that we get the requirements right for that discussion. Because I know you've seen the charge where we all say, "Hey, you shall, move out on the joint warfighting cloud capability." But we actually have a venue. What's it called? The IPT, where we have this discussion about where we're trying to get to. But the Navy is engaged in the conversation. So the one that we can just make sure that we get the requirements right, and that we are all understand from our the other services as well. So not to go into too many things specific of that, not directly in my portfolio, but definitely a part of what we are, working with. And I do have a person that is engaged on that IPT to make sure we move out. Yep. Okay.
Hello, this is Eric Florence, or Eric the Flow Florence from Veracode. And great job speaking and
Thank you.
sharing, what you guys want to do. My question is simply about using the cloud for application security testing and simplifying it. Are you guys looking to address the challenges there?
Yes, absolutely. And there is some testing going on. I mentioned earlier a lot of the various pilots that we're doing. Absolutely, and that because I think I didn't know if anyone from PEO, EIS is here that can speak to some of the specific types of things that we are testing out. But no, absolutely. Like I said, we're getting excited about a lot of things, but yeah, we got there's a cybersecurity aspect to it. So yes, there's some ongoing testing and pilots that we are working through. And like I said, this is exciting times. Even with we have a whole architecture that we're looking at. Hey, how do we move this along? I think flank speed was a step for us to kind of get to the cloud. Now, once I get everybody off the H drive, that's going to be, the needle moved a little bit more. Yeah, the deadline is coming up, by the way. But yeah, I mean, it's just those old, hey, yeah, we still got to have this just in case. I mean, I get it. There's some redundancy that's necessary. You got to have a contingency, whatever. But we got to move things forward. So yeah, we're definitely doing some testing there. Thank you for that. Great softball. I could have spoke more of it. Yeah.
Hi, Admiral. Thank you for doing this. I'm Lauren Williams with Defense One. I wanted to ask to see if you had any tangibles, deliverables on benchmarks, milestones, anything that we can expect to see to come out in the next 6 to 12 months. We talked about a lot of different things, but I'm interested to see if there's any significant progress that's been made.
Yeah. So let me get the exact number because the cyber security workforce. Where's Mike at? What's the manual number? I can't hear you back there. Yeah, 8140. That's something that's definitely coming out here. Like I said, any day that we are moving out on. The other efforts, like I talked about how. PEO, digital, how they moved out on the B1 boundary, made some upgrades. Now there's some other infrastructure things that we need to do because increasing capacity is great, but you need to make sure that you have the infrastructure right. So I know Ms. Youngsloo and Barry Tanner, they have a whole list of items. I don't have all the specific ones here that are the tangibles on. Hey, here's some things that are coming out that within here in the next few months. So as a resource and requirements, I just got to make sure I get them funded. So, but yeah, there's a lot of efforts and initiatives that are out there. Thank you for that. And we need to share that with industry. So that's a really good point. Okay, one more. I know, because I'm actually sweating up here. I've been cold all day long, and I'm up here sweating. It must be the lights.
Admiral,
Yes.
my favorite Admiral,
Hey!
I am following my favorite reporter on.
That's my mentor.
Yeah, no. Wonderful job. Really impressive. And it strikes me that there's no force without workforce. And if you want a smart force, you better invest in a smart workforce.
That's right. That's right.
I have been very impressed with what's going on in NCDOC, and I will note that there are many areas across DoD and even across the Navy Marine Corps where we're paying lip service to Agile, where
Yeah.
we say we're doing
Yeah.
DevOps or DevSecOps, but we're really doing DevSec, and then we throw it over the transom and say, oh, go operate.
Yes.
NCDOC with flight
MDE.
speed really seems to be living
Yes.
and identifying, every 2 weeks a new
Yes.
pipeline prioritization, bringing it into the smart folks that'll help dev who are the same operators, and boom, out the door 2 weeks later. How do we bring that appropriate implementation of Agile across the rest of the NAV?
No, that's a really good question, and I'll tell you, Miss. So one, Admiral Trussler and Miss Jen Edgen, they actually took all of the directorate leads to where do we go? DIU. Defense Institution University, and we spent a whole day on agile workforce, agile training, agile approach. We actually have an effort with TIA, our targeted enterprise architecture, and we're using an agile approach. So first, just got to bring us on board, right? Make us all smart so that we know, this is a different way of doing things. So we've got a lot of different, projects out there. And we're going back for more training and I've been charged with, hey, get those objectives and key results. You're the business owner, and in charging, my customers with, hey, here's the expectation. So no, we're starting that from the Navy. And even I think, with a part of where we're going with Get Real, Get Better, we'll start to look at that as well. But yeah, starting with the leadership to get us on board. Thank you for that question. Awesome. All right, team. Hey, thank you for this opportunity. I'll see you out there. No comms,